Hello, how is everyone today? I hope you're all well. We'd like to welcome everybody to the Marketing Alliance, a Colorado-based collective of B2B marketing and communications professionals. I'm Dana Young and I'm the VP of Programming for the Marketing Alliance. The Marketing Alliance's name is new, but formerly known as the BMA Colorado chapter, we've been creating a network of business professionals for over 60 years. Our mission is to provide networking and learning opportunities for people just like you. We're also actively seeking volunteers for our 2020-2021 board, specifically in programming, communications, and web. If you'd like to learn more about becoming a volunteer, visit our website, https://themarketingalliance.org/volunteer. Today's webinar is on how to build an AI chatbot, no programming required, and is presented in conjunction with Greg Ahern from Ometrics. In today's webinar, you'll learn exactly how to build a chatbot, no programming required. I'd now like to introduce you to Greg. Greg is a fanatic about conversion rate optimization, lead generation, and chatbots. He's the founder of Ometrics and Chatbot, which provides CRO tools, AI chatbots, and consulting services. Greg has successfully created businesses from startup to successful acquisition since 1994. Ometrics are a valued partner of the Marketing Alliance, and we're excited to be able to present this topic with Greg and Ometrics today. Greg, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and how you got into this line of work?
Sure. So I started in internet business around 1994, as you said, and around late 90s and 2000s, we started doing what's called usability. And that's really a different way of saying conversion optimization. And then with those analysis and studies we would do on web design and how to have people engage more, that's what really started. And then I had another business called QuoteCatcher, and that was a lead aggregation business where we're driving people to a site. It's pretty common now. And we want to make sure the conversion rate's working well as we sell those leads. And in doing that, we're always working on the conversions of the landing pages. And then once that was acquired, and then I started focusing on helping businesses generate their own leads on the optimization side of those leads that are coming to the site. And that's when we started creating A/B testing tools and other CRO tools and more. And then we started going more into engagement tools like the chatbot and pop-ups and things like that. And we also do a lot of consulting. So we're consulting on A/B testing, conversion optimization, as well as building the AI bots themselves.
Awesome, that all sounds really exciting. We're going to learn a lot from you today. Well, the way we'll run things today is Greg will present for about 30-35 minutes, and then we'll open it up for questions for the remaining time. Feel free to put any questions in the Q&A section as we go. However, a reminder that we won't take questions until the end of Greg's presentation. We'll also share Greg's contact details at the end of the webinar. So if anyone wants to reach out and connect with Greg, please do. Okay, let's get started. Greg, over to you. We're excited to learn more about building chatbots.
All right, let me share my screen here. Okay. Oh, hold on one second. All right, so today we're going to talk about a number of different pieces. Some of this I'm going to go over very quickly, and then we'll spend more time on the building of the bots. So one of the common questions is, what is a chatbot? What's the difference between live chat and lead bots and AI bots? How does it help conversion? Some terminology, and then we start talking about building. So what is a chatbot? So a chatbot is a chat robot. It's where it originally came from. These on, everywhere from websites, social sites, your phones, smart speakers, etc. And they can be accessed through text, buttons, voice, vision. Ones we're focusing on are text and buttons. Voice is very simple to add on. Vision is like a whole other thing. It's predicted that the natural language processing of machine learning and artificial intelligence will really start being at a higher level where you can't tell if it's a human or not around 2029. So we have a long ways to go. Artificial intelligence, as I was saying, is in its infancy. So it's basically like talking to a toddler. People see movies and they think it's a lot better than it really is. And a good example of this is if you look at your Gmail, you know, how often is it right when it suggests a word? It's not that good. If you were really going to rely on it, it wouldn't be very good. It also, when you're working with machine learning, which is how AI learns, it's very susceptible to social bias and discrimination. And there's been a lot of cases of this where things went wrong. AI machine learning takes a lot of data. There's only a couple companies in the country that can really do machine learning well, and probably only a couple countries as well. So it's not something that most people can just take and have it run without any human intervention. And even those companies still have human intervention. So often people get confused between live chat, AI chat, lead bots. So as you know, live chat is when you're basically texting through a computer to a person. Think of it that way. It's really good for complex questions that a human is trying to explain to another human, or a computer can't do that. It's nice because you can monitor people on your website and jump into a conversation with them. And it has that personal touch that, you know, computers just don't have. The cons are that users expect a person to respond immediately. So if you don't have someone on your live chat and they don't respond in 30 seconds or a minute, it gets the impression that like no one is in the company. And people don't realize that when they think, oh, we'll just do live chat and the receptionist will take care of it. You know, it doesn't work that way. If you have a call center, it's excellent. There needs to be an employee on live chat all the time, as I just said. And, you know, customers prefer AI chatbots in communicating with them 63% more than live chat. And this has to do with they feel like they're not giving anything personal away, which is not true. And they feel like they're not going to get sold to. And so people are more comfortable talking to a chatbot when they're, depending where they are in that sales funnel. Or if it's a support thing, it's different. So a lead bot is a more simplified bot. It really doesn't have any AI in it. And it's good at just getting people into a funnel. It's very quick to set up within seconds, and it doesn't cost much at all. Of course, the cons are that it can't tell, you can't ask it other questions. It's not going to understand. So an AI chatbot, it learns over time, and it has the ability to respond to questions that people are asking it. It's, you know, for the pros for support, it can handle all the lower level support stuff. And the advantage of that is it's not a reduction in your support staff, but now your support staff can be handling the more upper level questions and helping customers that are really stuck on complex things, where the chatbot can take care of all the simple stuff and get that out of the way. And so actually your support people are more happy working on complex things instead of answering the same question over and over again. For e-commerce, it improves the revenue coming in for each sale. It can help find products quickly. There's a whole slew of things we'll talk about e-commerce when we get to that. Lead generation, it's really good for getting around obstacles in a sale, creating a higher quality leads, and getting people into that funnel, doing appointment setting, things like that. Now, the other part to our AI chatbot is you have all this data you're collecting. So with that data, you get all this great insights. You understand what people are asking, the obstacles they're running into, the errors you have on your website, things from competitors that they may be asking about that you don't have an answer for, that you didn't know. So it's basically like always having a person there talking to your customer, and it's collecting all that stuff. And then you can do analysis on that to figure out, so many people are asking this kind of question, I guess we need to move that to the front of the website, or need to answer that, or whatever the issue is. The cons of an AI chatbot is it takes a little time to put it together. Depending on what kind of platform you use, if you're going to build it from scratch, it could take a year or more. If you're going to use a tool, then it could take a week or a month, depending on what the complexity of it is. The cost is going to cost more than a lead bot, but probably less than a live chat when you have people supporting that live chat. AI training and maintenance. So you just don't build the bot and walk away. It has to be learning all the time. And that takes a person to do that. And it has to be updated just like your website. We have sales or what have you, or new products. So summing that up, you have live chat, AI chatbots, and Libot. So live chat's best for when you're using it with a chatbot, so that when the bot gets stuck, it switches to live chat, and then live person takes it from there. The Libot is good for businesses that just want to gather leads, get quality leads. It's inexpensive and it can be put together extremely quickly. And then the AI chatbot's good for e-commerce sales, business sales, lead generation, more complex lead generation, support, obviously, reducing support ticket type stuff, and gathering all these marketing insights and to fine tune your business. All right, so here's some examples of some things we've seen from a conversion standpoint. So this is a client of ours. They had an increase in revenue of 35% when the customer engaged with the chatbot. So they found what they want, and they also bought more of it. Orders via the chatbot increased 10x since January. Increase in mail catalog. So this company, they sell bags, and so they found out that a lot of their customers didn't buy online, but wanted them the direct mail catalog, which kind of opened their eyes up to, wow, we should start doing more direct mail to these customers, and the fact that they really love this, having the actual physical touch of the catalog, they actually get more sales from that. So you can see here when someone asks for a product, the product comes up in the chatbot. It can be added to cart, and they can view the details when they did a specific search. In this case, this is a CBD company. The sales per user via the chatbot increased 40%. This is as the bot got smarter and smarter. The revenues via the chatbot have doubled since January, and it handles a large percentage of support tickets. And when they get stuck, they transfer to the live chat that they have, which goes into a ticketing system. In this example, orders have doubled since January, and revenues per order have tripled. So as the bot gets smarter and it can answer questions better, we fine tune exactly what the customer wants, and then we can, it's more efficient. See all of them? Yes. Here's some other conversion data that's out there on the net. Companies using AI for sales were able to increase their leads by more than 50%, reducing call time by 67%, and realize cost reductions of 40 to 60%. I'm not always sure about the cost reductions. It depends how you're measuring that. And AI is present. 49% of customers are willing to shop more frequently, while 34% of them will spend more money. We're definitely seeing that. For a chatbot, we're seeing a 15 to 35% lift in revenue for e-commerce chatbot applications when the visitor engages with the chatbot. I've heard other competitors, they're saying they had a 17% lift in revenues. This is not an anomaly, it's happening everywhere. And Libot's lift the ranges of widely depending on the application. This is for the Libot, but both the quality and the volume do improve. So the question is, why is this happening? The biggest piece that I see is that we've been using the same navigation system since 1994, which is fine when you have 5 pages and you have a nav bar with 5 buttons. But now we have gazillion SKUs and all these different subcategories, and we're still trying to use the same type of navigation system, and things just get buried. And so with the chatbot, you talk to it, and it immediately shows you what you're looking for. There's a number of other pieces in here. We can go over later, but the usability on mobile is easier. It builds trust with returns and being able to help support quickly, things like that. So there's some terminology you have to understand as we're talking. Artificial intelligence, we describe that. Machine learning is when the machine gathers lots of data and clusters that data so that it understands similarities and then predicts what that similarity is to be that particular item. Example is like if you show a bunch of images of numbers, eventually it'll say, oh, that's a 7 and that's a 1, and I can tell the difference. Natural language processing, that's the programming way of saying, of understanding the intent of what the person is saying. For example, what flight are you going to New York? And then when the next person says, what's the weather there? They mean it's relevant to New York. The question is the first thing that comes in. It defines what how you engage with the person. We have branching questions, which is a typical way of segmenting what that person's intent is and how to narrow that down. An intent is a natural language processing way of figuring out what the person's intent is. What is he talking about when he says something? A listener is listening inside the intent to capture the phrases. You can think of this as kind of keywords. And the reply is what the intent's action is after it understands what you're looking for. Conversational logic is like a decision tree. This is inside your questions with the branches, and they can branch into all sorts of different things, which we'll get into. Users can jump in and out of different conversations. These are called global intents. So we can have a conversation about something, and then I can tell you, oh, and what's the weather? And we can switch talking about the weather and transition between those different topics. Oops. Fallbacks are hitting the rails. So when the bot doesn't understand something, it hits the rails, and then it triggers a fallback. And the fallback is a statement that says, gee, I didn't understand what you're saying. Would you like to talk to a real person or send me a message or something like that? Human in loop, this is what I was talking about before. Human in loop is when a person is reviewing the fallbacks for every day to make sure the bot is on track and to then adjust the intents so that it understands and learns. The difference would be having machine learning. And so sometimes you have both, and sometimes you just have human in the loop. There's many functions inside a chatbot, an AI chatbot. There's questions and surveys and forms and e-commerce APIs. There's page targeting and triggers, alerts, reporting. There's data APIs to connect to all sorts of different types of CRM systems and everything else. In e-commerce, there's other additional functions, conversational logic, search and recommendation algorithms for products, personalization, order status, order tracking, abandoned cart stuff. And there's the whole thing about a chatbot is you have to engage the person at the right time in that sales process and that timeline, and that depends on where they are. So you're going to engage them differently on different pages with different types of questions. There's a whole slew of ways of engaging a person so that it engages correctly and they continue with the conversation. So Libot. So Libot, this is a simple version of a bot. And you can see here, it has no AI. And with our tool, I don't know if you can see this in the upper right here. You design, you set your text, and you pick your service, and the rest is just previewing and installing, and you're done. In this particular case here, we're asking, what's the company name you want? Go renaming it. Here we're asking the company name, and this is going to be threaded inside the conversation. So here you can see, hello, welcome to Acme Marketing, which we entered earlier. We love helping your companies grow. They can pick these are preset questions with answers, and they can say, oh, we don't offer SEO. I'm going to not have that, and I don't want this question here. I'll block that question out, and then you can reduce the questions and the answers, and then you're done. And so you can design this so it fits the products and services that you offer. It's going to ask these questions and then set everything up for you. So it's really simple. We have about 80 different lead bots, so depending on the industry. And they're also customizable. So you can make one that's completely different if you have a very specific system. The AI chatbot, this is where we want to spend more of the time today. So I'll start slowing down here a bit. So the first question you have to ask yourself when you're building an AI chatbot is, what's the purpose of it? Is it for shopping, e-commerce? Is it to overcome sales obstacles and gather lead information or set an appointment? Is it for product or service, or is it for all of them? the key with building a good, smart AI system is to have it very narrow and deep. So in other words, you're not going to build the next Alexa or something like that. They're only going to ask one question. And that question is going to be about, you're going to have questions about one topic. And that topic is going to be about what you're selling, not about, you know, the weather and the sports and do you like, you know, candy and everything else. So with that, you can then narrow down the intelligence, and you can go very deep and ask a lot of things about, well, yes, we have that in this color, or it only works on this software works this way and this way, and you can go that way. Otherwise, you're going to spend forever building these things out, and it's just not efficient. And the reality, the people that are going to be asked these questions are only going to be asking them in that area, and you can very gently push them into another section to help them if they have a different question that doesn't fit. Because you often get that. People will say, oh, you're a bot. Let me ask you some silly question. You know, and so you can have a fallback for that, which, you know, with humor, you know, says, oh, very funny. This is my answer. And oh, let's get back to the topic, you know. So the default engagement question, this is the first question that comes up when the bot comes up. And it's important because if you miss this, they're not going to continue engaging with the bot. So you have to think this through carefully. You want to make sure that they understand it's a chatbot, not live chat. And you want to make sure you're targeting exactly the right options for them or the right question to bring them in further. And so often this default question is A/B tested, essentially. And you see what works, what doesn't work. You're changing things like, oh, we have a sale coming up. We're going to add that. And then we take it down the next week, whatever. We can track all the data on that too. Went the wrong way. Okay, so there's lots of different areas to set up inside a chatbot. We have the question we talked about here, global intents. These are intents that are outside of the conversation we're having, but they pick up through, the intent will pick up through a listener what you're talking about and switch the conversation to that topic. So if I'm talking about this great software we build, it's great for cars, blah, 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 and the person says, oh, but what's the warranty on that? It will switch the conversation to a warranty conversation. The assistant is a quick way of putting in like FAQ kind of stuff. Lead forms and surveys. So we have built-in lead forms and surveys that funnel them into any kind of question. This is kind of like it's a lead bot on steroids. That's what this is. E-commerce has all the settings for e-commerce. Then you have general settings, triggers and events. This is how the bot is going to trigger. Is it going to ask this question on this page? Is it going to ask a different question on the checkout page compared to, you know, the home page? And then we have targeting and alerts and reporting. As you scroll down, you have your bot, which is live in the admin area so that you can test it as you're working on it and see that it responds correctly when you type in certain things. This is the default question. You can see how it aligns. Increased sales is right there, increased sales. I'll go over this in a minute. So with each button, you have many different actions it can take. So you can push them to another question, or you could push them to an intent that has other things attached to it. If you use it, this is going to be live on Facebook, then you might do a Facebook handover. The inside of building an intent, you have the name of the intent, the action. Is it going to branch or is it just going to be a text reply? And if you can add a button, you can have all these different triggers or actions with that button. So the button could be a link to a URL. You could trigger some JavaScript to have live chat or whatever other JavaScript piece you have on your site. Using our internal live chat, you could have it trigger another question. It could trigger another intent. It could do a Facebook handover. So there's lots of stuff that it's very flexible as far as what you want it to do from a button standpoint. Once we have a number of set, and most systems do have a number of set intents already created for you, and you can just drag them over and then edit them accordingly, or you create new intents, and that's how you can manage your intents. So once you write your intent, you don't have to rewrite it over and over and over again for a different part. It's just reused over. And that way, when you're editing something, if something changed, you could change just that intent, and it changes it throughout the brain of the system. So in questions and branching, I think I talked about this a little bit, how you can have a question go to another question and branch like that. Global intents, we talked about that too. So as I said earlier, the intent is trying to figure out what is the purpose, what is the user trying to ask, where are they coming from? And of course you have the listener, which is listening, and the reply, which is the response. And the listeners, think of them like keywords and phrases. So inside your listener, you have the name of the listener, and then you have the only complicated thing here, which is regular expressions. So regular expressions are a way of listing things like a search engine would do for when you're doing a search. So it's very simple. If I wanted to list a cat, a dog, and a horse, so that this intent is listening for a cat, dog, or horse, you just put a pipe. If I wanted to only listen for the word cat, then you do an exact match. Sounds familiar? You put your /B and your /B there, and now it's only going to search for the word cat and not vacation, which has cat inside it. And then if you want to do something that the word starts with it, so you'd put this caret here. So cat call for cat would work, but not black cat because it didn't start with cat. And that's the only complex thing there is with building a chatbot as far as like something you may have to learn. And it's really just a couple things like that, and that's it. The rest is just thinking through the process. So the reply has a number of options as well. So you can branch to a question and reply. You can have a text reply. You can switch it to an API, some type of API integration. You can show videos, and you just put the video URL in or an image. And if you're doing video or URL or images, remember for your website and your phone and everything like that on your own server, you just put your URL in. If this is also live on Facebook, you have to have the media on Facebook. So there's a different URL because you have to upload your video onto Facebook for that to work. So I explained here earlier that with the buttons, you have all these different options as far as what you want the button to do. Oh, note here they have a back button, which is important because you don't want the person to get stuck. If they ask the question and it wasn't the right answer, they want to go back, so you have to add a back button. Building the knowledge of the AI. So the first step you do before you really get going is you need to gather all the information you already have. So you have FAQs on your site. You have a support center that has a built-in FAQ docs for those support guys to answer questions with, or a call center, or you have a trouble ticketing system and you have all this data in there. Those are the things you want to have inside the bot because those questions are going to come up and you want the bot to answer them. So those are really simple to put in. Here's the question, here's the answer, and you're done. Just load them all in. Determine all the questions the user asks. This is impossible to do. You want to just take a stab at it, and then you're going to learn as you go. Create individual intents for each, and then build your default questions and branching questions, and then you build the global intents with branching questions if needed. And the global intents can also handle some of these FAQ kind of things that come along that may never get asked or asked a couple times but are not asked all the time. If you have an e-commerce system, the system automatically loads everything from the database of your Shopify, Magento, BigCommerce, whatever system you're using. And that pulls in the SKUs, the images, and so you can add to cart and view details right from the bot itself, which then brings them to the website. So if this is on Facebook or if it's on your own website, when they click add to cart, it then brings them to the add to cart page or the cart on the site. E-commerce, the images, instructional videos can be placed. So sometimes you don't want to show just the product like we just had in the screen before. You want to build a special screen inside the bot that explains something, especially something complex. And then you can use the instructional videos you have and have those built into the bot, and then have the add to cart built in. So you can be flexible to have it custom done the way you want to present it, or it could be kind of more raw data and pull stuff right out. Here's an example of the person asking about a CBD for their dog. And so once they asked that question, it broke down, well, what exactly are you looking for? You know, calming your dog, you know, the full spectrum hemp stuff. And then from here, it pulls out the intent that it's listening for. You can see how we did this here. And when they click this button, it triggers this linked intent, which is a custom view of the product and a description of it. And then right here, it's like, oh, I want to buy it. And so that's how, this is what's going on if you followed what's happening with the bot. When someone clicks the button, they go here, but it's actually listening to this and then triggers this. On the e-commerce section, it's straightforward. You pick your e-commerce platform and the rest, there's a bunch of other stuff to fill out here, depending on your key and for the system you're using and things like that. But once that's set up, once its stuff is entered, then it automatically pulls everything from the database. The settings allow you to choose your color, the chatbot window size, icons, all the kind of the look and feel of the bot. You can adjust all that, including the size of the window, depending on what you want. There's also variables in there, so you can, if you have a phone number, you can just put phone in your text replies, and it will then pull that from your variables area, or your address, or whatever you want, and any kind of text. And that that allows you to go back and change your phone number in one place throughout the whole system. Triggers. There's two types of triggers, desktop and mobile, because we want to engage with people differently. So the desktop triggers, the most common one we use is it triggers once, so it opens up when they come to the site, and then it closes and stays as a small ball. But there's all sorts of different things you can trigger off of, from exit to middle of page, scrolling, and all the other stuff. Or you just leave it as a ball. For mobile, it's a little different. In some cases, we have it so that it pops up immediately covering the whole site. In other cases, only when they start scrolling. And most often it's used just as a ball. It all kind of depends. If you're advertising a lot on Facebook, which is mostly mobile, then you need to have it engage a little more than if it's not that type of use case. Conversion tracking is built in. If you're doing through an e-commerce system, it's already built, it's already done. There's other tools we have here to build and track leads and things like that. All this data is presented in the reporting. Page targeting. So this allows you to have a particular question asked on a particular page, or maybe don't have the bot show at all if they're in a certain section of the site, that kind of stuff. And this goes with, just so you understand, we have 9 different tools. So, you know, offer sliders and our pop-ups and the lead bot and all those things, surveys, they all have the same functionality of targeting on a certain page and things like that. So the reporting is where the real fun begins as marketers. You can see here that this person asked a question. I'm sorry, my black thing's in the way. And it wasn't answered. So they said, well, you know, can I substitute the maple pecan in a variety of 4-pack with the carrot cinnamon dye due to allergies? And so this hit the fallback. It didn't understand what the person was saying. And so we needed to create an intent around allergies. And so if this came up all the time, that would tell this client that, gee, we need to talk more about allergies on the site. People are concerned about it. Ironically, had another person went to the site, looked up something, and found exactly the diet that they had. And so, you know, they were excited about it, you know, so it answered their question really quickly instead of hunting around to find out a particular diet problem. So you built your bot, now you need to test it. So when you're building the bot, you can't you could spend a year in a conference room with all the employees and try to build this thing out. You don't need to do that. You build out is the top stuff, and then you launch it, and then you check it all the time and let it grow. What you think is the questions the customers are going to ask, or visitors are going to ask, is never what really happens. And so it's almost impossible to really figure it out. You can get good 50% of it, but not all of it. Work the fallbacks, in the most active areas of the site right away. Usually when we launch a bot, we're checking it hourly, every couple, 3 hours, depending on how much traffic they have. And then it's daily. Let's see. A good trick is to launch the bot on a non-linked page, or maybe the privacy page, and then give it to all your employees to test it, and anyone else just to go play with it. And the wording that they use, the different questions they come up with, there's always something you're going to find that you didn't think of. We talked about triggering on desktops, the desktop triggers so that it shows once and then reduces. And mobile, I would usually recommend starting it so that it's just a ball, and then if it's very active, then try it so that it engages the user when they land on it, or maybe when they scroll. Do your human in loop checking, as I was saying earlier in the beginning, for every hour, and then after that, daily. Track your fallbacks monthly, and you'll see the number of fallbacks you have will drop over the next 2 or 3 months. Usually takes a month before it really starts getting more efficient, and then 2 or 3 months after that, you really start seeing an improvement. And then when you start adding new things or trends start happening, you'll see those pop up in the bot, and you'll have to answer them or find out, oh, we need to do a solution for this. With the reporting, you can find out the button clicks, the pages they're on. There's a lot of data, and you can follow all the conversation all the way through. Oh, here we go. So the user response report, this gives you an understanding of the most popular buttons and questions. And so you can see, 70% of people are asking this question, or 30% ask that one. And gee, we don't have that on the homepage. I guess we should move it there, or say something about it because everyone's asking. Or add it to the product page, what have you. The page engagement report is where did they engage on the chatbot? Sorry, where did they engage on the site for the bot? And this often tells us that there's something wrong with that page. If everyone's always engaging on a particular page, then we know that there's something wrong about it. They're not getting the questions they answer on that page. And so then we can dig in and find out what are the questions they're asking, because we can follow the whole conversation they had with the chatbot. And then we determine, okay, this is the piece they're missing. They want to know, is it going to fit in this box or whatever it was. And don't forget to update your chatbot with all the information that's going on inside the company. And the insights, we talked about that already, where you can learn all these different pieces of information. It's like having a constant survey, user survey going all the time. So that's the end of the presentation.
Thank you, Greg. That was super informative. Really interesting stuff to learn as well. For anyone wishing to see real life examples of some of the information that we've learned today, you can visit our website, themarketingalliance.org. Ometrics actually created our chatbot, so there's a real life example for you to play with and work through on the website. Greg's also shared his contact information here. I'm going to put it in the chat. And we're also going to open it up for questions at this point in time. So if anyone would like to ask Greg anything about the information that he's presented today, feel free to drop your question in the chat now. Do we have any takers? Don't be shy. Okay, Jim has raised his hand. Let me look in the Q&A. Okay, feel free to drop your questions in the Q&A section and I'll read them out and then Greg will be able to answer them. Jim has asked, what was an example of how a chatbot helped someone understand their customer better?
To understand the customer better. I mean, often they ask questions, there's a lot of bugs that come up, like, gee, your coupon code's not working. Sometimes the description of a product, the customer is confused by it and they're asking questions about it. So they learn that the way they're marketing their item is not accurate or simple enough for the customer to understand. So that stuff comes up. And sometimes there's just confusion about, it's usually confusion kind of things that come up. Like they completely miss the boat on what the product is offering or what the actual spec of that product is. Does that help answer your question?
Jim, we'll move on to Cynthia. If you have anything else that you want to ask on that question, feel free to pop it in the Q&A and we can come back to you. Cynthia has asked, what is the general time frame to create a chatbot from development to release?
So we can usually build a bot within, it depends on the complexity, of course. So a lead bot literally can take 30 seconds to a minute. If it's going to be customized, maybe 3 minutes. An AI chatbot, e-commerce is a little more complex than a more simple system like a lead generation bot, simpler. If you have a lot of support type stuff or a support system, that can be a little more complex. So with those, you're usually talking anywhere from, I would say, 3 days to 2 weeks for us to put one together and get it launched and live. And then it takes another couple of months to fine tune and get it better and better. That kind of never stops. But to get it up and going, I would say we often turn them around within a week.
Okay, awesome. LN, I like the abbreviation, has asked, is there a way to add a game to the chatbot if the person is taking too long to reply?
So yes, let me go back to the other person's question. So you can build the bot yourself. And so we offer that for free, as well as, if you're going to start using it, there's less than $100 or so. We also offer plans where we build it for you. And that's where I was going to the build it for you piece. So that there are two options. You can try it yourself or we can help you. So with games, yes. So you could have kind of a quiz kind of questions. You could tell jokes, that kind of stuff. If you're looking for like video games, that would be a little bit harder. I mean, you could point them somewhere where they could interact with the video game, but in general, like text kind of games and questions and things like that, yeah, those you can build in. You can build in any type of question or scenario. You could have like a fantasy adventure thing going on. You can make the chatbot be a personality where you just talk to it all day long. The variety of uses is really as big as your imagination can be. So.
I mean, it seems like, as you said, like it's as big as your imagination can be. What are some great examples that you've seen that you really gravitated towards?
It's always interesting, not that some of them are there are some out there they're more in the, well, there's psychology ones where people can talk about their issues and it will help them reduce their stress. There's other bots that are fantasy kind of game bots I was talking to, and there's other types of fantasy things we don't want to get into. Those are the more cutting edge stuff, the experimental ones, but they're getting better and better. In Asia, there's a lot of these that do really well, and they're all based on machine learning too. Well, it's a combination, but I think the more interesting ones to me is when someone asks a question like it's a problem that user is having, and the bot nails it and answers it. I mean, that little elegant piece there is what that's exciting. So it's not really a particular bot itself, but it's when the bot works well. That's what's neat.
Okay. We have another question from Ian Campbell. He said, I've heard about issues with the AI of chatbots having a hard time understanding people correctly unless they are just given options to select from. How do we get around that so people can have more natural conversations?
This gets to the natural language processing piece. And so I didn't get into this, but there's a lot of chatbots out there that are based on other people's algorithms, and they're basically just a bunch of buttons, which is kind of like the Libot. The key to making it conversational is you have to understand the kind of the different perspectives that are going to happen in the conversation and have answers for them pre-built. And so a simple example is, you know, how big is the widget? Will this widget work with this? And is there a warranty on the widget? So there's 3 different things the questions could ask for. So you have answers for those. The next piece is you have to be able to answer any one of those 3 can be asked differently. And you have to be able to do the regex so that it understands a different way of answering those questions. And so once that's done, then it's more natural. The other piece is having stuff fed back into the answer. Oh, what's your name? My name is Greg. Nice to meet you, Greg. That kind of thing, humans attached to that. And so you can pull in that kind of information into the natural process of talking with the bot. And then asking the right question to bring them and focus them, just like a good salesperson is going to bring you back to the sale for the close. Same kind of thing. You want to guide them, guide the conversation a little bit. People don't always realize that's happening, to push them in the right way. And that can be done with a question. You don't even have to have any buttons, and they can type the answer in and you continue that way. So you don't have to do this with all buttons. Is the buttons more efficient, especially when you want to be focused and get them in a certain place. But when it comes to support stuff, it's what's the problem? Is it with installation or, you know, shipping it back? You know, and so they click the button on that, and then it's kind of like, what's the problem? And they type it in, whatever it is.
Okay, Ian has a follow-up. He's asked, have you seen that chatbots are more useful with e-com/product-based companies rather than with service companies?
I've seen them work well with both. I mean, we have a number of e-commerce companies, and you know, it works really well as far as getting, especially the more complex product and systems that have complex products that people don't understand, or a lot of products. Then it finds exactly what they're looking for quickly, answers their questions, and pushes them in the right direction so they can select the right product they want. Often those products are hidden, they never find it, or it's so complex they know nothing about it. I mean, CBD is a good example that answers those questions, and they go, okay, it's going to do what I want, now I'm going to buy it. Service stuff works really well too, especially when it comes to the examples of is this service or product going to fit what I have? And so there's that part of it. But the other part of it is, what's the obstacle that's really in the guy's mind when they're going to buy it? Is it, are your guys going to come to my house? Are they going to wear masks? Do they take their shoes off when they come to my house when they service this, whatever it is? You know, if I run into a problem, can I call you at 3 in the morning when my email system's down and there's going to be someone to answer it? All those kind of things which no one ever asks, those are the kind of things you want to make sure inside the bot, because they're going to ask the bot, because they're going to feel silly asking the guy in real life. But it is an issue. And so having that kind of stuff in there is what makes the bot work well for service and products.
Okay, thank you. We have a couple more minutes for questions. Does anyone have anything else that they'd like to pop in the Q&A? Cynthia has another question. Can you give an example of a bot you developed or another company developed that caused difficulties, and how did you handle rectifying the situation?
That caused difficulties?
Yeah. So maybe it wasn't implemented efficiently or didn't have the right questions or intents and caused problems as a result of that.
Yeah, I can think of one. So this is a simple one. We had a lead bot, and with each bot you have a label on top, and so you can call it whatever you like. And so it was called, I'll just say, I don't want to give it away, but it was called blank blank assistant. But it was a lead bot, but it was called assistant. So people started asking it questions, and immediately said, oh, great, what's your name? And what time you like to show up for an appointment? You know? And so that's kind of classic by not, you know, defining, not setting the expectation correctly. So when if you have an AI chatbot, you need to say, you know, hey, I'm like ours is, we call it Hector, and you know, I'm Hector the chatbot. And so they right away know this is not Hector the person, this is Hector the chatbot. And with that, they're going to, expectations different, and then I can ask certain questions. So that's kind of a one that happens. We see it happen all the time. People think of these great names, I'm going to call it this, but they don't define it. So that's often a problem. On a more technical basis, sometimes we'll run into collisions. So collisions is when you have two intents that crash. The bot's not sure what answer to give, and the way the intent in regex was written is incorrect. And so, especially when you launch a bot, you'll see these things happening, and you're like, oh, that's an obvious one. I forgot to put, you know, cats as well as cat, you know, that kind of thing. So.
Okay, anyone else? Yes, we have a couple more. Cynthia, as a follow-up question, are there any other lessons learned that your team have leveraged that you wish you knew earlier?
I think over time, we've built a better process to distill what we want the bot to do and to get that information from the client and quickly present that back to them so they can review it. Part of it is just doing parts of that to make it faster than trying to explain it. And then when they see it or when they can play with it, they're like, oh, I get it. Now I get it, because they can actually play with it. So getting something done quickly to see that is very helpful.
We have another question from LN. They've asked, does the chatbot record any demographic information from the user?
No. The only, I mean, we know, like any browser or any system, you know what device it's on, you know, what the IP address is, all that kind of stuff. But that's all, any computer system does that. So, and we're GDPR approved and all that stuff, so you can delete everything. That stuff's not really reported. Most of the stuff that people are looking at in their reports are, this person asked a question, how did the bot respond? They asked this question again, or they asked a different question. Oh, okay, that one was answered, and they went this way, and that kind of thing. And they clicked these buttons, and we had 100 people click this button. Okay, that's interesting. So, or 100 people asked this question, and they asked it 5 different ways, but this is the question they asked. So that's the kind of stuff, that reporting piece, as well as, you know, revenue reporting and conversion reporting, all that stuff like that is also in there. As far as, is this guy, is it a guy? Is it not a guy? Is it, you know, how old were they? That kind of stuff we don't collect unless you ask them. If your system is saying, oh, great, and what's your name and how old are you? You know, then you're going to have it. So.
Okay. Ian has asked, what's the biggest and maybe the funniest mistake you've seen someone make when implementing a chatbot?
Well, so I guess I can think of some more funny things when people ask. They ask all sorts of strange things like, you know, are you available for a date? All this kind of stuff trying to stump the bot. And so that's when we get something funny, when I can't believe someone asked this, you know. Some of them are funny like that, like they're intentionally funny, you know, what color is the sky? And others are just, you know, like, gee, didn't they understand this is a chatbot? So I think those are the kind of things that come up at least once a week.
Okay, we have a couple more minutes if anyone else wants to drop anything into the Q&A.
You know, there's one thing I didn't mention on the last slide there is I have a group called CRO Hacks. And so this is hacks for anything, email, you know, landing pages, chatbots, SEO, SEM. We have a lot of people for SEO and stuff like that. So any marketers out there that want a forum to talk and chat, CRO Hacks can help you with that. Just go to the bottom of our website to see the link. It's on Slack. You have to be on Slack to do it. And then we have the ebook, ebooks we offer. And then we have a free how to build a chatbot course, this email course. And so there's some other things like that that you're welcome to.
Okay. Let's start to wrap it up today. A big thank you to our partners and a big thank you to Greg at Ometrics for the presentation today. The Marketing Alliance wouldn't be able to do the work that it does without the support of our valued partners. In case anyone's interested, you can register for our next TMA event, July 23rd, the latest in our Marketing Job Seeker series. The title is How to Navigate Job Boards and Networking. You'll be able to learn about job search strategies, networking groups and platforms, as well as networking strategies that can help you access the hidden job market. Learn more at themarketingalliance.org/events. And a big thank you to everyone for coming today, and have a fantastic day, everyone. Thank you, Greg. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye now.